Some days in your life you never forget. Thursday, 15th of September 2011 is one such day for me. It was the day our youngest son Adrian died in a motor vehicle accident. It was also our 27th wedding anniversary. This is my account of that time. On Tuesday, Michael, Adrian and myself had dismantled a blown up tractor engine. Michael works on the farm and Adrian worked for a local farm machinery dealer. The following day, Wednesday, I took some of the engine parts to Perth to see if they could be repaired. I was unsuccessful, so I returned to Narembeen about mid-afternoon and took the parts back to the workshop. I talked briefly with Adrian and his boss and we shared some light-hearted banter before I went back home. That same day, Michael, with the help from his mother, had got a mob of sheep into the yards ready for crutching the next day. David and a couple of his mates were coming to crutch the sheep in the morning. That evening, Rosemary went out to a Bible study and I went to bed. On my mind were two things. Firstly, that I had to go out to the farm to help with the shearing, and secondly, tomorrow was our wedding anniversary. I was asleep by the time my wife came home. About 4:20 in the morning, the house phone startles me out of a deep sleep. I go to the office to answer it. It's the communication centre of St John's Ambulance. I know, I think, this is not good. Could it be about my mother, who had been experiencing serious heart trouble? But the woman's voice on the phone is asking me if I know Catherine. Is she a member of my family? Puzzled, I say no. She then asked me the names of my family members. When I got to Adrian, she said yes. Adrian has been involved in a motor vehicle accident. What is this? Some horrible dream? I had to excuse myself for a few minutes and went back to the bedroom. Rosemary was asking me, what's the matter? I was trying to come awake and stop dreaming, as this can't be true. Adrian in an accident? I'd only spoken to him a few hours ago. I was trying to get my head around it all. I went back to the phone, just hoping that it wasn't true. But no, the girl called Catherine, called for an ambulance, said they had been four-wheel driving and had had a terrible accident. Catherine was a visiting German girl who didn't know where they were, so police and ambulance were having trouble locating them. The communications lady thought they might have been on Bow Road. I said, I think it might be Brown Road. I knew our boys had a track and often went there with motorbikes. I said to send the ambulance there and that I would also go to help find them. I could only think of Adrian and how desperately I wanted to be with him. I dressed, grabbed a torch and took off in the ute. On the way I drove past his house. All the lights were still on and his Nissan Patrol was gone. Not good. Out of town and down the south road to the gravel pit, about 15 minutes away, but seemingly longer. Drove around and then stopped, turned the engine off, lights out, called out and listened, but not a sound. They're not here. Found an old drum that they had used to light a fire in. I felt it and it was just warm. Searched for tracks which indicated that they had driven through the paddocks of the farm. Maybe they'd hit a bank or a tree. Continued to search through the paddocks but found nothing. So I returned to the main road and stopped. Rang the communications on 000 and asked if they would allow me to speak to Catherine so that I could help locate them. I was told it wasn't possible. I could now see a police and rescue helicopter coming. It was off to the north and had a powerful spotlight shining down. Having asked the communication centre to please ring me back, I hung up and waited. What a beautiful, clear, warm night it was. Eventually a police officer did ring and told me he thought they were in Bowes Road, about 10 minutes to the west. Puzzled, I drove over there and noticed some flashing emergency lights off in the distance. Should be easy now and just head in that direction. Continued to search but found nothing. By now it's about 5 AM and I'm starting to think that maybe Adrian is dead. Perhaps I'm not meant to find him. The horror of it all is starting to sink in. I ring again and ask if the police or ambulance crew would please ring me. I know those guys. They are friends and neighbours. But I receive no news. Now I must go home and tell my wife Rosemary. She tries to stop me at the back door. We go into the lounge. I tell her that I think Adrian is dead. She doesn't believe me and says he might be just injured, but I'm not so sure. I lay down on the floor and writhe in anguish and grief. Later I try to ring again, but get no answers. By 6:30 I decide to ring our other children. I ring Michael first and tell him that Adrian has been involved in an accident and to prepare for the worst. I asked him to tell David, who is now due to turn up for work, for both of them to come to our house in town. We won't be crutching the sheep today. I ring Chantal and tell her the same. Come in with Clint and the kids. It will take them over an hour just to drive in. We sit and wait. Then we hear a helicopter going over our house, heading towards Narembeen. We rush outside and look up, wondering if Adrian is in it. Rosemary has arranged to babysit a neighbour's young boy for the day. I go up and tell her that Rosemary won't be able to do it. She asks a lot of questions that I don't know the answers to. All I know is that Adrian has been involved in the road accident. Sometime later I see a police car coming down the road. I know it's coming to our house and the news is not good. They pull up, and while the police officer is still getting out of the car, I say to him, Adrian is gone, hasn't he? He nods. It's not easy for him either. They come into the house and we talk for a short while. They give me his 2 mobile phones and I grab them eagerly. They leave. They all hold each other and just weep and cry out in grief. Later that day we visit the morgue. We enter. It's him all right, our son Adrian. He lies absolutely still. I touch his face, it's cold. There is no breath, no response, no smile, no recognition, no life. Adrian is dead. Our son, our brother, our mate, just gone like that. 21 years old. What a loss. What a waste. What suffering is now ours. But as I soon realise, not only for us, but for many others too. Friends, workmates, members of sporting clubs, church and volunteer groups, as well as school teachers and farmers. In fact, lots of town and community people that knew Adrian also shared our grief and sorrow. You see, Adrian was well known and respected in the community. He was friendly and kind to all. He lived a decent moral life. He had a good driving record. You would not expect this to happen to him. Adrian was a skilled motor mechanic, excellent hockey player and played guitar regularly at church. He was training to be an ambulance driver. He was made fire chief of the local fire brigade. He was responsible and took many responsibilities. So what happened? It is now known that after work on the Wednesday, Adrian, along with Andrew, his work supervisor, went to the local club for a few beers. They were later joined by 2 other young women and continued to drink together. Later that evening, Adrian suggested that they all go to the farm in his 4-wheel drive Nissan Patrol. So they all went together, lit a fire, had a drive around the gravel pit and the farm. Later they headed home with one of the young women driving and she lost control. The vehicle left the road and spun end for end before coming to a rest upside down in a wheat field. Adrian was thrown out and killed. Andrew was trapped and injured. Catherine and Jordan were both injured. They weren't found for about 3 hours. So what can we learn from all this? Well, I know that Adrian knew all the rules, but he didn't obey a couple of important ones. Firstly, a couple of drinks after work became many and soon excessive. He broke rule number 1, don't drink too much. Excessive drinking will make a fool of you. It will greatly decrease your ability to make sound judgments and decisions. Excessive drinking can offend others and often leads to tragedy. You may think that drinking lots is a requirement for having fun, or proving your adulthood, but this is not true. Treat alcohol with respect. Drink moderately and maturely. Second rule that Adrian and his friends broke is one that everybody knows. Don't drink and drive. So why did they and why do we break these rules? I think what happens in life is that we can often break rules and get away with it. We then move into a comfortable position and think it's okay, won't happen to me. We may even pressure others into taking the same risks that we do, even scorning those who choose to obey the rules. That is why some of you listening to this will die or be injured in the years to come. Don't you be one of them. Think about how the risks you take could affect your parents, your family and your friends. So thank you for your attention, and remember this story so that it does not become your story. Thank you.